Hello everyone, this is Dan Lee, and I'm here in the Sierra Miniature Studio, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how I painted this Chaos Lord of Khorne. And this is actually a Christmas present from one of my friends, so I'm going to be matching the color scheme that he uses for the rest of the army. I painted the base and the model separately, starting with the base. First I applied Badger Stynylrez Black Primer to both components, and then painted the dirt and the base rim with Vallejo Earth. I then painted the Guardsman's Fatigue with Caliban Green. Next I highlighted the top of the fatigue with Straken Green. Because the transition between Caliban Green and Straken Green is fairly stark, I came back in and applied a thin layer of Caliban Green back over the top, just to blend the two together a little bit more. Next I painted the Guardsman's Rambo arms with Dwarf skin, being careful not to get any overspray on the base or on the fatigue. I then lightly highlighted the tops of each muscle using Vallejo Flesh. I then applied Vallejo Beasty Brown to the corrugated sheet metal on the base as a foundation for the rust. In retrospect, I probably should have done this step first, but it doesn't really matter so long as you're careful not to overspray. I then apply more Vallejo Earth to fix any green or flesh-colored overspray on the base. Also, any overspray from the earth onto the model will just make it look as though the corpse laying in the dirt is dirty. I then apply Vallejo Desert Yellow to the base in a blotchy pattern to increase the tonal variation of the dirt. Next I move on to the Khorne Lord himself. For this I've chosen a dark flesh tone, using Vallejo Dark Fleshtone. This will contrast nicely with his brightly colored armor, as well as creating a visual distinction between him and the guardsman on the base. I then highlight the raised area of each muscle using Vallejo Beasty Brown. I then base coat the light portions of the armor with Rakarth Flesh, leaving black in the recesses and under the loincloth and thighs. I highlight the Rakarth Flesh with Pallid Wych Flesh, focusing specifically on the raised details, like the knee pads and the tops of the feet and thighs. I then move on to the helmet and shoulder pad, which are aptly painted with Khorne Red. After the airbrushing was complete, I moved on to brush painting, and blocked in the tassels on the helmet and on the axe, as well as the loincloth with Mechanicus Standard Grey. I painted his holster, the straps on his legs and gauntlet, as well as the axe handle with Rhinox Hide. I also later came back and painted his loincloth Rhinox Hide as well. I then painted the skulls on his helmet, as well as any other bone details, with Zandri dust, and then highlighted them with Ushabti bone and Screaming Skull. Next, I blocked in the numerous trinkets, trim, and gold details with Balthasar Gold. I then lightly highlighted the Balthasar Gold with Gehennas Gold, as well as finishing any incomplete details, such as the metal, which I painted with Leadbelcher, highlighted with Stormhost Silver, as well as finishing the guardsman's head and his headband, which I painted to match the base. I also painted in any unfinished details on the base, using the same colors as on the Lord of Khorne. Then, to make the corrugated metal on the base look worn and rusted, I came in with a small piece of sponge, dipped in Leadbelcher, and lightly stippled Leadbelcher in a random pattern onto the metal. Next, I applied a black oil wash to the figure on the base, but not to the dirt, as I don't really like how that looks. I also applied the same black oil wash all over the Lord of Khorne. I then cleaned the surface areas of the models off, using a brush dipped in Turpenoid, leaving oil wash only in the recesses. Now that the model has been cleaned of Turpenoid, I'm going to make it dirty again, only this time by splattering it with blood for the blood god. Here I'm using an old frayed brush, cocked back with a toothpick, so that the bristles create a splattering pattern as they snap back into place. I should also mention that blood for the blood god is very thick, so it can help to slightly dilute it with water, in like a 4 parts blood for the blood god to 1 part water mixture, just to help everything flow a little bit better. I'm also focusing the spray primarily on the axe because that's where the most blood would be, but you can also get a little bit on the model as well. Finally, I glued the Lord of Khorne to his base, and after a coat of Games Workshop Munitorum Satin Varnish, the model is complete. And here are a few shots of the finished product. Thanks for watching, everyone, and if you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. Happy upcoming holidays to you all, and I'll see you next week.